Hello, welcome to this DCS F-16 tutorial. In this video, I will go over startup and making sure that your aircraft is all set to fly for air-to-ground or air-to-air missions as soon as you get in and ready to go. So to begin, we have a startup checklist available to you in the description of this video if you want to use that to follow along or in your own practice and training. The first thing we'll do is activate our auto start. We're utilizing the auto start so we can work in conjunction with what the plane is doing and not have to go through a whole bunch of extra steps and increase our time. After the auto start has started up, we'll open our rearm window and I'll just put some AIM 120Cs on the 3 end pylons. Fuel tanks on 4 and 6. And the ALQ 184 long on pylon 5. Select your desired livery. Board number, all of that good stuff. Ammo types, chaff flares, and hit OK. I personally find for air-to-air, my preferred loadout is those 6 AMRAAMs. If I'm doing cap, you can have 9Xs on the 8 or 2 pylons. That is entirely up to you, but I find I'd much rather have an extra AMRAAM than a Sidewinder. If you do have Sidewinders, make sure you do not put them on your wingtips. Your wingtips should be for AMRAAMs. That allows the plane to fly in a more aerodynamic manner. At this point, we're waiting for INS align to be showing up in our top right. Once that shows up, this switch here, this INS knob will be moved to the norm position. We're just waiting on that, and then we can continue. When the plane starts to align our INS and it moves the knob to the norm position, it just got INS align. We will flip it to the off position, do a 5 count, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on 6, we will put it to the stored heading position. This allows the plane to do a quick INS align rather than the standard INS align that the auto start does. If you just allow the plane to do its normal alignment, it'll take much, much longer. Here on this display in the upper right, we can see it shows INS, a number / a number. Our INS will be fully aligned when this number counts down to 10. When this counts down to 10, it will say RDY to show it is ready. We'll come back to that in a little bit. After we move to the stored heading quick align, we can move over to our left panel. And there is the master IFF knob here. We will move that knob to the norm position. This turns on our plane's IFF, our Identify Friend or Foe system. From there, we're going to move to the jammer panel, which consists of these buttons here. We will move this bar switch to the up position, OPR, operational. We will leave this ECM XMIT switch in the down position. See it says XMIT. Leave it down. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 buttons we will make sure are all pressed in. At this point, our jammer settings are set up. This setup will allow you to manually fire and turn on your jammer or turn it off at will. Moving up, we see these 4 buttons here. We will click the power button. It will turn green, we'll hear a chime, and that means we have turned on our EW system here. After we press this button, we will come down to this panel of switches. We will flip these 3 up and these 4 up. This jettison switch, do not flip up. If you put this to the up position, it will jettison all of your countermeasures as if you were in an emergency scenario. At this point, we will go to the mode knob here and move it to the manual position. During the control bindings tutorial, there is a mode knob man that was a nice to have bound. Instead of manually rotating this over, we could just click that button and we'll be good. From here, if you remember during the control bindings, we had program knob 1 or 2. If we pressed forward, it selects program 1 for our chaff, and aft selects program 2 for our flares. Pressing our bound dispense button from the controls binding tutorial, specifically countermeasures management switch forward, which I have bound to the D press of my program select hat, will fire off our selected countermeasures set up in dice. We'll cover all this in more detail later. Down here is our helmet symbology brightness knob. If you want to utilize your helmet, move this all the way to the right. Moving up, we see a stores config switch with Cat 1 and Cat 3. As you are learning to fly the aircraft, I highly recommend you put this switch to the Cat 3 position, and this will limit your aircraft's controls to prevent you from ripping your wings off if they are heavily loaded. If you are in Cat 1, the aircraft will not neuter your controls and allow you to do maneuvers regardless of if they will rip your wings off. Cat 1 is utilized for heavy loading of fuel tanks or air-to-ground weapons on your wings. Cat 1 is for if you just have air-to-air weapons. That's all good here. We will move up. All of this is fine. We have external wing tanks, so we will come down to this lower panel here and move this switch to wing first. This will tell the plane to drain our wing tanks before our center tank if we had one, or our internal plane fuel. This knob will allow us to select what this display is showing us. So right here on the norm position, this display is telling us our internal normal plane fuel. If we rotate this knob to external wing, it is now telling us our external wing tank fuel level. If I moved it to external center, you see it moves to 0 because I do not have an external center tank. This is an easy way to tell if your external tanks are empty, so you can jettison them, and then move this back to norm so you'll be utilizing your plane fuel readout. From here, we will go to our HUD and select air to ground. Here you can see our mode that we're in. We're in nav mode on the HUD. We want to select air to ground. Now you see CCIP. That is showing we are in an air to ground mode. When we are in the air to ground mode, we will come to this right display, choose the empty button to the right of HSD, double click it, and then we will choose the weapon button. We will move to the left display. The FLCS button, we will double click, and then select HAD. We will move down to the test button, double click, and then select the targeting pod button. What we are doing now is setting up our preferred configuration for our displays for the mode that we are in. So for our air-to-ground mode, we have set weapon to occupy this button here. and our HAD, HAD, and targeting pod on these buttons here. If you wanted to cycle between the display pages, we could click the button or press our DMS switch in the direction of the display. Here I will press DMS right to demonstrate that, and you can see DMS right that the page is changing. DMS left, and it will change our left-hand display. Here we will press our missile override mode hat cycle. If you need to remember what that binding was. Dogfight missile override switch cycle. In this case, it is the thumb hat on my stick. I am pressing to the right, and that will change the mode that the plane is in from CCIP to the next mode in this queue, dogfight. I will come to the right display, and this empty button to the right of SMS, I will double click and click HSD. I will once again cycle the mode with the right press on the hat, and now I am in MRM medium range missile mode. And I will do the same thing. The button to the right of SMS, I will double click and press HSD. I will come up to where it says XMIT, click it, and it will now say L16. That is turning on our link 16 data link. At this point, we can see that our INS is aligned. We see 10 and RDY, so we can come back to our INS knob and move it to the nav position. After we have done that, we just have one more step, and that is to press the list button. That will change this readout here. We will press 0 to enter the miscellaneous page. 0. We will press R to enter the HMCS HIMIX page. R. And to select the option we have highlighted, which is shown by the asterisks on either side, we will press 0 or select twice. Once to select the first option, and once to select the second. This will allow us to see our helmet no matter where we look. If we wanted to exit this menu, we would utilize this dauber and click where it shows return. So this dauber controls our menu options here. To do that again, I can go into list, 0 for miscellaneous, R for HEMIX, and you can see our selected option with the asterisks. I can go down on the dauber, and the selected option changes. I can go up on the dauber, and the selected option changes. We'll cover this in more detail where it is relevant. But if you wanted to have a better explanation of what we just did to enable our helmet, that is how you control it. And we can return once again by hitting return. At this point, our plane is essentially all set up for whatever mission we're going on, but our nose wheel steering is turned off. Here, this AR status indicator, right above our right-hand display, if we press our nose wheel steering button, we see AR NWS is now lit up, telling us our nose wheel steering is turned on. Clicking our nose wheel steering button again will turn it off. I'll leave that on. Before you taxi, we'll cover this in a lot more detail in the navigation tutorial, but a good idea to find your way home is to click the cycle button to get yourself into air to ground mode, shown here by the CCIP. Click mark 7 on the keypad. move your TDC down and you'll see the circle on your HUD move. And then press your TMS up twice. And that has set mark point 26 to where that circle was, letting us know we now have a mark point at our home base we can fly to. We'll cover this in a lot more detail in the navigation tutorial, but if you're getting up and flying, this is a good way to find your way home on your HSD. At this point, you're all set up and ready to fly. I'll do that one more time, a little bit faster, with a little less explanation, just so you can get the feel for the procedure. All right, we'll start off with our auto start. Rearm window. We'll throw on an air-to-air loadout. AMRAMs on the ends. Jammer along on the center. And fuel tanks on the inner wings.
Request rearming.
At this point, I'm going to wait for the INS to start aligning. When this knob switches to the norm position, and when that moves to the norm position, I will do a 5 count. Well, I'll switch it to the off position, do a 5 count, and on 6, I will switch it to stored heading. Once again, this allows us to have our plane align its INS much faster than if we allowed it to do its normal align. INS align is showing up here. Move the knob to the off position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On 6, move it to stored heading. At this point, I'll move to the left. IFF to norm. Click my jammer buttons. Move this left switch to operational forward position. Press the power button. Flip my switches. Mode to man. Make sure my helmet is all the way bright. If you're learning, you can put this in Cat 3 if you have heavy wings. I will come forward. I will select air to ground. I will move to my right display. Double click the empty button. Select weapon. Move to my left display. Select FLCS. Double click. Select HAD. Double click the test button. Select TGP. Cycle to my next mode, dogfight. Go to the right display. The empty button to the right of SMS, double click. HSD. Cycle my mode. MRM, medium range missile, same thing. Double click the empty button, HSD. And then I will click where it says XMIT off, the button to change it to L16. At this point, my INS is aligned. I will move the switch, the knob, to the nav position. And I will set up my helmet to always show, list, 0R00 return. If you want a home base waypoint, we will go back to air to ground, click mark, move the TDC down, we have the circle, and then double press TMS forward. And now we have a home base waypoint. At this point, your startup is complete and you're ready to fly. If you have wing tanks, you can change your external fuel transfer switch to the wing first position and move your fuel quantity knob to the external wing position so you can know when they're empty to jettison them. I'll go back into medium range mode, enable my nose wheel steering, and start taxiing. All right, that covers startup. In the next video, I will go over taxi, takeoff, and landing. Thanks for watching.